All right, joining us today is a pro wrestler, a promoter, an actor, a stuntman. He's the founder and CEO of Wildcat Sports. Luke Hawx is joining us today. Luke, thanks so much for joining us.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, Luke, from what I understand, you've been in the world of pro wrestling for I think, just under 20 years. Is that correct?
Next year hits 20 years. I'm old, bro. I'm old and beat up and broken down.
Well, there you go, man. Just under 20 years, but I mean, you've worked with everybody from WWE, TNA, ECW, Ring of Honor, XPW, NWA. You've been around the world. You've seen it all. Can you tell maybe anybody that's listening, since you've pretty much worked for all the promotions, is there anybody that just stands out, or just something that you keep going back to, maybe who you worked with, maybe a place that you just had a really great time with?
I've been pretty fortunate to work, around. I really enjoy. I mean, Mexico is one of my favorite places to go. The crowd's just so passionate down there. England too. I go to the UK a lot, and it's a different style of wrestling. It's just they get into it, and I dig in England how they really respect the sport. Whereas then you go over to Mexico, and it's like the fans are just so passionate. They boo the heels and they cheer the baby faces, and they're wild and they're crazy, and it's whereas a lot of places in the U.S. you deal with the smart mark crowd, so to speak, the guys who just want to read the internet, know what's going on, kind of like I feel like in the States, and like this ain't taking a dig at anybody, but in the States, everybody wants to be like on the inside. They want the inside scoop, and they want to be part of the show, and they can't just. It's almost like insulting them to call them fans nowadays, because nobody wants to just be a fan. Whereas in like I say, overseas, these guys are they're passionate fans. They just go out there to enjoy a product, and I think that's why I really prefer wrestling in those places.
No, definitely. It's a good point. You bring up UK fans, Mexico fans. For UK fans, I mean, for you, for traveling, I guess, since you've been all over the world, do you have to kind of prepare yourself for the kind of fan base you're going to be in front of? I mean, to where you know what they like, you know what they're going to do. Is it just like, I mean, like UK, for example, I mean, those are some great fans. They don't get to experience, I guess, as much as the big shows as they probably would love to, since I mean, for example, WrestleMania is always in the States. I mean,
The States, but they come over here for it. They don't get to host the events, but they definitely, a lot of those fan bases come over here to the States for the WrestleMania events. But yeah, I mean, preparing yourself for it, the first couple of times you go in, actually the first time ever, you're always nervous because you don't know what to expect. And like rules are different in different places, and the match style's different. Like in England, a lot of places they'll have rounds and matches, and they'll have different rules. Like if you knock an opponent down and you don't cover them right away, you can't cover them. You have to let that opponent get up, but you can't hit them while they're on the ground. So, and a lot of those things I wasn't smartened up to at first. I didn't know much about those cultures. I had to learn from going over there. So that's always a crazy thing, is when you in someplace different and you're used to what you're used to, and it doesn't work over there. So but it's a learning experience because you have to adapt.
no, for sure. Now, I think when I first saw you, it was in XPW. A lot of hardcore wrestling back then. I mean, they even went through hardcore titles, hardcore championships, and whatnot. But it's 2018. Do you think there's still room for more hardcore wrestling on TV today? Yeah, just either mainstream TV or just in general, to where, I mean, it went through a phase, I think, if you will, to where it was popular for one point on mainstream TV, and then it kind of faded away, and then it got kind of too PG, if you will. But
I think
do you think it can make a comeback, kind of thing?
I think they kind of burnt it out. I think once you start pushing the envelopes too much, you get tired of anything. Especially with the indies, you know what I mean? Like they were not just TV, but like, because the indies were where you really seen the stupid crap with like the weed whackers, and they, they were
Yeah.
doing some really ridiculous things that I think is, at some point, to me, that's not wrestling anymore. And it's just kind of showing how much balls you have or how stupid you are. So, and then, you got to be tough to do it. No doubt about it. Nobody's questioning how tough these guys are. But at some point, it's just like you become a freak show. What does wrestling have to do with that? You become, almost a stunt man. Not really a stunt man, because you're not, because you're doing a stunt, but you're not. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I guess freak show would be the way to explain. I was never really a fan of that style. I got caught up in it because I had to.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was pushed for my spot at that time, and I didn't have much say so. Like they were pushing me into that position, and I did it for a very short amount of time. And I always tried to incorporate wrestling into it. And I did maybe 5 or 6 matches, and as soon as I got tired of it really quick, I was like, I don't want to do these anymore. I don't want to, especially because I started getting known as a deathmatch wrestler when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't want to be known as a deathmatch wrestler. I wanted to be known as a wrestler. So, and I really had to defer myself from that situation. And it was tough at first because so many bookings came at me, like guys wanting, and they'll pay you stupid amounts of money, but it wasn't about the money for me because I didn't want to do it.
No, sure. Now, you just said it right there, too. I mean, a lot of guys right now, too, a lot of young guys are probably getting into that kind of scene. Do you have any advice for them that if they kind of almost start going down that rabbit hole of where they might be, typecast, if you will, as like that deathmatch wrestler, or they have no escape? Any advice to them how to maybe just get out of it, just not do it?
You stay in your ground. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I think a lot of these guys want to do something cool and they want to make their mark, but is it really worth risking your life or risking your health? Or, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But some of the things they do, Joey Janela, all right, I'm sure you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a great kid. I like some of the stuff. I like him because he's a little wild and obnoxious. But some of the things he's done with his body, you can't do that on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. So, and then one of these times when you're going to try and do it, something's going to happen, and hopefully it doesn't kill you. So that stunt he pulled with Zandig was a couple of years ago when they did the thing off the top of the building into the back of the truck was just, totally ridiculous.
Definitely. No, but you mentioned stuntman, though. You are a stuntman. You are an actor. You've been in movies. Can you tell us a little bit about doing that on the side from pro wrestling to where I know it's obviously a different kind of a world, but I mean, what's it take to be a stuntman, and maybe what have you been doing, and anything crazy you want to share with us?
Yeah, it's completely different than wrestling because the days are a lot longer. I mean, the pay is a hell of a lot better too, but the days are longer. For instance, when you're doing a stunt, sometimes you have to do it several times or 20 times. Mm. So it depends on whereas in wrestling, you do a match, your adrenaline's going, you're performing live, you got the live audience, and you can interact with the crowd. And in a movie, if I got to fall backwards off a 5-foot table and hit the ground, they go cut after it's over, or you wait till the end of the scene to clear cut. Okay, they got to reset everything. Your adrenaline's kind of down, and then you got 5-10 minute breaks between each shot, and you get if you smack your head or you hurt yourself, it's like you just want to get it over with, and you can't. So it's really abusive on your body. But again, you're being compensated for it, and you're trying to do things. It's also they do try and protect you as much as possible, even though you're doing a stunt. Obviously, the goal is not to hurt yourself. So you try not to do anything that's unsafe, but sometimes some things just are so hard. Like when I was on Fast and Furious, when I did Fate of the Furious, I was on a wire, and I had to get pulled back about, 10 to 12 feet, and then I had to get yanked back. It's called a ratchet, so it's a machine. So you're hooked to a vest, and you got a cable, just tugging on you the whole time where you have pressure on the cable, and as soon as they hit that button, it yanks you, and you have no control over your body. So the only way we can do this shot was we couldn't have any pads down because of the floor, and they would have been seen in the shot, and we couldn't green screen them out. So I had to do it twice to the floor, which really hurt like hell. Gave me a really bad concussion, really rang my bell, some really bad whiplash. And we did several other shots the next week into pads, but the first initial shot, we had to do it twice onto the ground. And they only wanted to do it once, but the first time we did it, the camera was set in the wrong spot, so I went out of frame when I landed.
Oh, man.
So, because they only wanted to shoot it once. They're like, do you have one in you? Do you think you can take one to the ground? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I can take one. So then we ended up taking it, and it hurt like hell. It rang my bell. Like I said, I had a really bad concussion from it, but we missed the shot. So I was like, I'm already wrong. Let's go again right now. So we shot it right again, and that second one really shook me up. But, it's rare that you have instances like that where you just have to do that one. There's kind of no way around a pad. So, and there's always accidents as well. It's something you got to be careful because you never know what's going to happen. You could do something. I'm just like Eddie Guerrero. Remember when Eddie Guerrero, he did frog splash a million times. That one time he did it perfect. His elbow just popped out of place because his body was like, no, I'm tired of doing this. So, there's no way around accidents.
Sure. Now, I also said you're a promoter and CEO of Wildcat Sports. Can you tell us just how this came about? How did you start Wildcat Sports? Maybe for the fans up here in the north that maybe not have heard about it too much, can you just tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, basically what it was I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and of course wrestling was big here back when like Mid-South, Junkyard Dog, all those cats, and when I was coming up, and it died out. So there was nothing here. Really, they had a few really bad, crappy indies, like some trash bag wrestling. And I had to move to train. I had to move cross country to train. And when I got a good, decent reputation and moved back home and started working regularly and doing indie shows regularly across the country, my goal was always to open up a facility here so people would have some place close to train. And then they kind of fed off from that was the promotion. Because once you have the school, you have to have somewhere reliable for you guys to work at. Because you don't really want to sit them on trash bag shows. So that's how the promotion started. And, we started in a bar and we grew from, our first show was about 200 people tops, maybe 250, like packed in. And we lasted in that bar for 3 shows and we outgrew it quickly, which then we moved into like bigger venues and then bigger venues. And now we're pulling a good 12 to 1,500 per show about every 8 weeks.
Sure.
So, and we got some really awesome talent down here. Most of my guys not most of my guys, but like I have a crop of guys who've been with me since day one, like Matt Lanty, Danny Flamingo, Buku Dow, Jay Spade, Socorro, and these guys, Chris Harper. These guys are so talented at what they do. And they've been in the Northeast. They're starting to get out a lot more. Some are working for House of Hardcore. They're working for MCW coming up in Maryland, Championship Wrestling. A bunch of them that did some WWE spots. So unfortunately, they haven't worked like all of those indies in that Northeast area yet, where like they get a bunch of good press. But these guys are super talented, man. I think they can hang with the best of them. I'm not just saying it because they're my guys. Like my guys, I know could hang with the best of them on the market today. So I just got to get them in front of those fan bases. We're coming back to Philly. Our first show we did in June last year. At the ECW Arena. We're coming back soon, so the day after WrestleMania, we're going to announce our return date, and we did really well last year at the ECW Arena, so we're coming back, and we're expecting to do even better this time.
Awesome. Now, tell me a little bit about that school, too, Wildcat School. Who are the trainers, or what exactly do you do in the school? And for maybe those listening and they want to join it, how can they sign up for it?
Yeah, you can head over to wildcatwrestling.com. That's cat with a K, K-A-T. Wildcatwrestling.com has all the info on our school and our promotion and some of our shows, our YouTube, etc. And our head trainers are my first class of students. So Matt Lancy, Buku Dow, Socorro, and Jay Spade are the head trainers. I'm obviously the head trainer, but when I'm not here, those guys teach class, and they're trained my way. They're trained exactly how I want them to be trained, and they do all my beliefs. So they pretty much run things. It's good because I got a good core base here that I can depend on at a really solid talent. Like I said, it's a shame these guys don't get more exposure than what they do because they're so talented, and it's actually changing a lot the last 6 to 8 months. Things have been really, really picking up for a lot of these guys, and some went overseas, so some are about to go to Mexico. I'm about to send some more guys to England, and like I said, they're starting to spread out to places like MCW, a lot in Texas, some places in South Florida. So, of course, they work for AML in North Carolina. So things are really spreading out for my guys, which I'm excited about.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned New Orleans. WrestleMania is going to be headed down there. Big weekend, and it's going to be a big weekend with Wildcat Sports because you guys are going to be having a show at WrestleCon at the Sugar Mill, I believe. That's Thursday, April 5th. Guys, let's get into some of these matches, if you could tell me, because I'm looking at the matches right now. I see there's going to be a first-ever father-son three-way international tag match. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Because this match you are in.
Yeah, well, not only is it the first time ever, but it's a really personal match for me because I'm teaming with my son, who's been training about 6 months now. And I like to tell you that I'm being biased because he's my son, but I'm not. He's good.
Awesome.
He's always been around the business, so he kind of picked it up really quick, and it's all he ever wanted to do. And he's also a multiple-time state champion amateur wrestler in freestyle and Greco. So, like, he had wrestling in his blood coming in. So everything, like, his whole dream of growing up was to be a pro wrestler. So he picked it up a lot quicker than most people pick it up. And then having the strong amateur background really helped. And he's starting to branch out. Like, he just had some matches in Los Angeles and North Carolina as well as home and in Georgia. And then we're wrestling guys who have been around. I mean, Bestia and Damien 666, who are from Mexico, are massive stars down there, and the top stars in the Crash, Lucha Libre down in Mexico. Damien's a legend. So if anybody doesn't know who Damien is, he's a Mexican legend. He's been all over. He was in the LWO and WCW, FMW in Japan. And then you got the Knights. So you go over to the Knights, who are a huge wrestling family in England. They just had a film made about them and their sister. It's Paige's family, so her brothers. And he was actually the first guy to come to the States and wrestle from the family, Roy Knight. And he's really good, but he got in a bar fight, and I think like 2003, 2004 in the UK, and ended up stabbing a guy and doing 5 years in prison. So he couldn't, after he got out of prison, he couldn't come back over to the States. So now he just got cleared again. So this will be his first time. I mean, he's super talented, talented.
Sure, yeah.
And he could fight too. So he's a tough SOB. And his son's the same thing. His son grew up wrestling. It's kind of similar, very similar to my son. And we're all actually, I mean, I'm not going to lie, we're all good friends outside of wrestling. So this is, it's just cool to be able to have such a monumental moment between us to work with not only my friends, but my son, and have us do something together. I know we're all going to be trying to outperform each other, so I'm really looking forward to that match.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, some other matches on the card, too. We're going to have Savannah Evans versus Rachel Ellering, who we all know is the daughter of famous WWE Paul Ellering. Can you tell us a little bit about these two and their matchup?
So Rachel's super hot. I don't mean physically. I mean on the wrestling scene. So Rachel's super hot. She just got back from tour in Japan. She's everywhere, and she just did that Mae Young Classic tournament with WWE. And Savannah Evans, this is Rachel's first time in Wildcat. So Savannah Evans is a Wildcat mainstay. She hasn't been trained here. She's out of North Carolina, but she's wrestled for us many times, and she's pretty much on all of our events right now. So I think, and she's really just starting to break out. She wrestled Emma a couple weeks ago in AML in North Carolina. So, and I don't know if you've seen Savannah Evans live, but she's a bigger girl. She's a really tall, thick girl who can go. I mean, she's really intimidating, really strong. So, like, she's not the typical, smaller female body girl. So, like, I really enjoy watching Savannah's matches because she's just very dominant. And I always enjoyed a dominant performer. So I think her and Rachel Ellering, going against each other for the first time will be a really good match here.
No, definitely. We're also going to have Danny Flamingo versus Matt Lancey. Is that how you pronounce his name?
That's it. And that's two of our trainers and two Wildcat mainstays that have been here since day one. So they've had some brutal matches where they beat the hell out of each other in the past. And they did one of actually our crowd's favorite matches was those two together at the Shamrock. It's called X-Rated. We do it once a year because it's our only 21 and up show. We do it every June at this bar room here, and it's huge. It's one of our biggest events because it's an adults-only show, and they get to come let loose and drink. So everybody's been asking for a rematch of those two. So I figured that this show, that the WrestleCon event, would be the show to put it on at.
Definitely. Also, we're going to have ECW, former ECW superstar, special guest referee for the International Tag Team match. Jerry Lynn's going to be in the house. How do you feel about that one?
Right. You know what? So Jerry Lynn was our main event against myself in a dream match at our very first Wildcat event. So, and he retired shortly after that. I was actually on his retirement show in Minnesota, and me and Jerry have been close friends for a long, long time, and it was really cool to be a part of his retirement show. So to have him, come in at our very first show and to see how much we've grown and how big we've gotten and be a part of this show is really, really cool for me. because I haven't really seen him too much since since he's not wrestling, so we don't catch up on shows. He's just working a regular job and taking care of his family. He'll do a convention here or there, but he doesn't really do much with wrestling. So to have him come out and just be somewhat part of our show is really awesome for me.
No, yeah, for sure. We also had the Wildcat Revolution Championship with Ken Dixon versus Johnny Flex. What can you say about this one?
Crazy. Man. So I like Dixon. I don't know if you're familiar with Dixon's work, but he's mean, he's rough, he's rugged, and he's out of MCW, so he's our Revolution champion. And then you go against a guy like Johnny Flex, who is the most popular wrestler in Wildcat. He's our smallest wrestler. This guy's little bitty. I beat the hell out of him many times, but he's a little bitty, but he fights like a pit bull, man. This kid is, and he's our most over and most popular wrestler in Wildcat right now. It's crazy. Anytime this guy does anything, the crowd's behind him 100%. So that's going to be a good little match because, Flex is always the underdog, and I know Dixon's super stiff and super rugged. So, yeah, I think it's like, besides my match, of course I get to be a part of it, that's going to be the most exciting match for me.
No, definitely. I mean, there's several other matches we haven't mentioned yet, but some WWE former WWE superstars people know. Shane Hurricane Helms is going to be on the card in a match. Also, Caleb Conley, who's just in our region, he's going to be in a triple threat match with Mike Dell and Barrett Brown. And Steve Anthony versus Mr. 450. A few other matches. Any of those stand out that you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all good. We also got the Wildcat Heavyweight Championship match, which is going to be the main event, which is our champion Jay Spade against Billy Gunn, against Bob Holly, against Stevie Richards.
Oh.
So I think, that's a headlining match. Like, to see all four of those guys,
For
Spade's
sure.
phenomenal. Spade's also working House of Hardcore. He's doing some other things, too. So is Matt Lancey. But, to see these guys go in there and go toe-to-toe with legends like that is great for me. Stevie and Jay Spade have been feuding for a while, and then Bob Holly and Billy Gunn got interjected on our last show, and then so to see these guys just work with each other and see my guys get to not only just learn from these guys, because every match is a learning experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to see them work with these guys and learn from them is great for me, and I really enjoy it. But I think, dude, tickets are $25 for general admission.
No,
you get to see all that for $25. Yeah, and I'm not, look, dude.
And more.
You got 10 matches, right? You got 10 matches, and look at all the other shows surrounding us. We are the most affordable show out. So we got Jeff Cobb here, who's super hot on the indies. He's another one that's going to be here. So we got a few surprises as well that we haven't even announced. So for $25, you're not going to get a better price anywhere.
No, for sure. And I just want to remind all the fans, too, Wildcat Sports at WrestleCon. That's going to be at the Sugar Mill on Thursday, April 5th on WrestleMania weekend.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Now, where everybody listening right now, we're talking about Wildcat Sports. Where can they find you? Website, social media, where can they keep up with you guys?
All right, so if you want to check out Wildcat Sports, all the Wildcat stuff is the same. It's at Wildcat Sports. That's WILDKAT. It's K, not C, K. So at Wildcat Sports for all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. If you want to look up Luke Hawx, it's at Luke Hawx, HAWX 504, at Luke Hawx 504 on all my social media. So hit me up, check me out. If you got any questions, shoot me a message. We love to have anybody and everybody out there. We're looking forward to showing the world, the talent we got down here, and I think a lot of people were already turned on to it from seeing what they've seen of us online, so I think they'll have the opportunity to come and see it in our own backyard. Our plan is to be, like I said before, the most affordable show and also the biggest and best show of the weekend. We don't want anybody coming into our hometown and outperforming us, so we're bringing our A game as we always do, and we're going to put 150% into it.
All right. Well, Luke Hawx, man, I could talk to you probably all day. I hope to have you back on. We wish you nothing but the best this year down at WrestleCon and Wildcat Sports. Everybody, please check them out. Luke, thank you so much for joining us today.
Nah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, bro.